This is the Business Hour in partnership with Network B2B, helping you share your passion, knowledge, and make great connections.
This is the Business Hour podcast. A couple of weeks ago, we talked with Neil Boothroyd about alternative dispute resolution. We talked about adjudication last time. Now we're going to be talking about mediation. Neil, tell me more. What does mediation mean?
Okay, mediation in a construction context is becoming much more prevalent. Mediation is a quick and easy way to resolve disputes by consent. It's a non-legal process, which means you step away from the court environment and the legal procedures into an environment where, by consent, the parties meet to settle their differences. The mediator acts generally as a facilitator, so they're there to encourage the parties and explore the background to the dispute and to get to the root of what's really causing the angst and the issues so that they can bring the parties together and reach a settlement on their own terms. It's a fantastic process and procedure. It's very quick. Mediation proceedings can last anywhere between half a day and a day. Bigger disputes can go over multiple days, but that's quite uncommon. And it's a confidential process, which is akin to a negotiated settlement. The mediator provides an environment in which the parties can come together on a without prejudice basis, which means that they're free to discuss all their concerns and issues and anything that they might not otherwise want to privately disclose to the other parties without that being held against them at a later date.
And Neil, is this mediation, is it held on a neutral ground somewhere then? Where do you meet?
Yeah, so mediations can be held anywhere. They're commonly held in lawyers' offices. Hotel meeting rooms are good venues. And very quickly about the procedure, you generally have a joint session at the beginning of the day and then you split off into separate rooms. And what happens in those separate rooms is entirely private and isn't necessarily shared with the other party, except to the extent that the mediator's given permission or authority to share important information that will help settle that dispute with the other party.
And in terms of being a mediator, okay, how do you train to be a mediator? How does that happen?
Okay, well, I did my training with the RICS, so I'm an RICS accredited mediator, and I went on an intensive 5-day course. And you go through the whole procedure about learning the skills of a mediator, the process of mediation, and an awful lot of role plays in practicing your skill and learning how to get the best result out of a difficult situation. Okay,
and I guess some of these mediation sessions, they could vary from being like a big issue to something for somebody. I know it's a big issue for everybody in terms of what they want to resolve, but without breaking confidence, could you give an example of, say, something that you've worked for, like maybe a house build or whatever?
You can mediate pretty much any dispute. So particularly in a construction and property context, they're very common in boundary disputes, so neighbours who've fallen out on a particular boundary issue. I've mediated disputes concerning professional fees, unpaid professional fees and services, quite commonly about count settlements and payment terms, and during a construction process about securing an entitlement to a certain activity that's either been done or not been done that's holding up a project. The great thing about mediation, Steve, is where the parties are working together, like I said, the process is consensual, but it's really good at preserving those business relationships. So it's about engaging the disputing parties on a personal level so that they can reach that consensus in a way that doesn't damage their ongoing relationships in future, so they can carry on working together, which some other dispute resolution mechanisms can be quite acrimonious and quite adversarial. Mediation's a very consensual process.
So to coin that phrase, it's a really win-win situation for everybody.
That's the ideal outcome. The ideal outcome is to reach that win-win. Yeah.
Okay, so if people want to get in touch with you about mediation, how can they do that, Neil?
Okay, so they can go to my website, which is www.ncgbconsulting.uk. They can email me, neil@ncgbconsulting.uk, or a really good place to find me, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn and invite me to connect.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us today on the Business Hour podcast.
Like to share news about your business, event, seminar, or workshop? Simply email steve@stevetwynham.com. This is the Business Hour in partnership with Network B2B, helping you share your passion, knowledge, and make great connections.
The Business Hour podcast is produced and presented by Steve Twynham. Copyright applies.